The Sixth Doctor, Colin Baker, 1984 to 1986. The Twin Dilemma, 3 out of 10. After a very difficult regeneration, the Doctor is acting very strangely indeed. He attacks his companion Peri and then decides to become a hermit on a distant planet in recompense. Here he finds two spoilt mathematical boy geniuses who have been kidnapped by a Time Lord under the influence of a monster. The first serial for the sixth, and probably the most unpopular, Doctor, is often slated as one of the worst ever. But whilst I wouldn't say it's great by any means, I did find it interesting in parts, which is more than I can say for some of Colin's other serials, such as the appalling revelation of the Daleks, but more on that later. The first serial of any Doctor is always a fascinating one. He's often thrown into mad mood swings or other strange behaviour as his new mind and body settles down. In the previous regeneration from Tom Baker to Peter Davison, this took on a comedic style. Davison humorously portrayed his four predecessors as they circled around his brain. This time, however, the unsettled Doctor is a dark and dangerous incantation, even trying at one point to murder his companion. Although the change in character was confusing to audiences at the time, I can understand why they did it. Davison had played him as such a charming and heroic character. It left only one real direction for the Doctor to go in if he was going to progress in depth and in interest. Colin Baker was given the very difficult task of turning a once likeable and friendly Doctor into a very disagreeable character, and he does this with an admirable zeal. The difficulty, however, is that if to have a hero we all want to enjoy watching, he has to be likeable and someone we want to emulate. Colin's Doctor from the outset is obnoxious, arrogant, and very difficult to like. The cantankerous beginnings of the first Doctor worked well because of his age and the fact that he had never met humans before. When it comes to the sixth Doctor, however, it seems rather self-destructive to the programme, which of course it almost was. I don't want to badmouth Colin Baker for the sake of it. He's often derided by some fans, and to be fair, it's really not his fault. He has a difficult job in taking the Doctor back to his darker roots, and he acts this with a gravitas and authority that most actors would struggle with. He also has moments where he manages to make the Doctor's character completely his own, which is no mean feat when you consider that 5 people had already played him by this point. Anyway, all of this is not telling you whether this is a good story or not. As with most of each Doctor's first stories, the plot takes second priority behind the important task of introducing the Doctor himself. And this serial manages this well, even though the story itself is pretty poor. Slug men versus human fur cones is the best way I can describe it. It's a weak story that has none of the fleshing out needed to make it understandable or particularly appealing. But the main crux of the story is about the change in the Doctor, which makes this a suitable start to a new phase.